Yeah, I believe we're recording. You can stand there for the start. Get that out of your way. All right, am I in the picture? All right. I'm going to go over a 45-degree hyperextension, but we're going to do it in a style to focus on the glutes. So when the body hyperextends, whether you're on a reverse hyper or a 45-degree hyper or just even a standing hamstring lift, there are three sets of muscles that overlap. The hamstrings kind of go from this point to this point, and then the glutes start below where the hamstrings ended, and they go and they overlap. And then the low back overlaps where the glutes go. So it goes from here to here with the low back, and from here to here with the glutes, and from here to here with the hamstrings. And they all want to help each other. They all do help each other. What we want to do is we want to do this movement in the style that focuses more on the glutes. And so positioning is important, but again, as usual, I say this all the time because it's right every time I say it. I have to keep saying it because it's still true every time. It's how we initiate and what muscles we initiate, which muscles we use, and which muscles we say, hey, not so much. So what we want to say, not so much, is hamstrings, and they're in a really good position to pull here, and not so much low back. So we're going to lock the low back in place, and then we're going to think, don't use hamstrings so much, use glutes to pull up. All right, so why don't you hop in there, Kim? And so we have to have room for the pelvis to go over. Come on up for a second. So most people are too high on this. They have too much of their pelvis supported. So now go around my hand. If it was here, you'd have to go around by opening the back and using this as a low back. And so what we have to do is we have to make the pelvis, the front bones, free to fall around the pad. And so her pelvis can get around the pad. And we're just supporting the thighs. We're going to lock the low back in place. So go ahead and stretch down and open the back. And we don't want to do this because then we'll get some of this, some of this, and some of this. So what we want is to lock the low back in place, flex the bones in front, these two bones that you feel in front, the ASIS, and flex that around and relax. Now fix the hamstrings, but don't flex them to pull. What I want you to do is I want you to pull from your glute, the bottom of your glute, all the way up to the top of the glute. Keep going. Push these bones forward, push them forward, push them forward. Flex the glutes. Now, this stays right where it is. It was perfect. It doesn't move. We're not going to use the low back. We're going to try not to use the hamstrings. Now let the glutes stretch. Let the pelvis fall over top. Very good. Stretch all the way down. And don't stretch from the back. Try not to stretch so much from the hamstrings. Stretch this part and flex up and through. Very good. Flex forward, push forward. When you're at the top of the motion, you feel the low back contract and you feel the hamstrings contract, but you try not to make the movement with those muscles. Make the movement with the glutes. So you're thinking about the area above the pelvis and just to where the glutes and the hamstrings touch. And that's getting longer now and stretching around, and then it's going to get short and balled up and tightened up at the top. It's as short as you can make it. Now open it up, and she's not using any low back. Can you demonstrate it wrong once, Kim? Can you use the low back a little bit like you're not supposed to? Yeah. So go pull up, and you see this a lot. You see a little bit of hamstring, a little bit of glute, a little bit of low back. Okay, rest, that was fine. And it's easy to confuse those, and they work together, so it's okay to train them together, but we can actually train this for glutes, for hamstrings, and for low back. And I think I've done a video already for just low back, but this would be the glute version. And it's this simple, but you have to do two things. You have to lock the low back, and you have to open what's below there. So let's do one last one. And so we'll get in, make sure the positioning is so that this pad won't stop you from moving, and we'll get to the bottom. And right here, a lot of people stretch open. So let's get the stretch in, okay? But now, flex the low back. So bring your shoulders up towards me and stop. Now this is locked in, but what's gonna move her now is the glutes, and it's gonna pull from here up this way and get shorter this way. Now it's nice and short, and then it opens up. So this stays here, but this now stretches around the top position of the glutes. Let the pelvis go, and what's really happening here is the pelvic bone, the big pelvis, is what is moving. This isn't moving, the leg isn't moving, keep this tight. What's moving is the pelvis. The pelvis is moving up, and the pelvis moves back down. And the pelvis moves up, and the pelvis moves down. Rest, that's fine. So I shouldn't have to explain why glute development is important, why you want to be able to use it. It's used in every walking, running, jumping, lifting. I mean, it is always involved. So having control over it like this and being able to choose to use it, if you can do it here, you can do it on a leg press. If you can do it here, you can do it in a squat. If you can do it here, you can do it in a lunge. You can use the big muscle of the glute more if you know how to control it. And this is a good way to start learning how to control it and how to sort out. You know, I always say it's not just the muscles you use, it's the muscles you don't use, and how to sort that out. How to say no to the back, it just stays firm, and no to the hamstrings. Why don't you do one for a demonstration and use the hamstrings? So be in this position, and this time concentrate on, go back into the same starting position. So fold over, let the pelvis fall across, lock the back up. Now, I want you to start down here. Pull yourself up with your hamstrings. Use the hamstrings to get up. It pulls the whole thing up. Not just the pelvis, it pulls everything up. And so we don't want to use glutes. We're locking the back in place. Now stretch the hamstrings open. Now don't start up here. Start down here. Pull deep at the bottom of the hamstrings and then work it all the way up. So this is what you don't want to do if you want glutes, but it is what you want to do if you want to involve hamstrings. And there's a better way to do this, but now do it, the same motion, and minimize the ham. So we did this motion, and we just maximized the hamstrings. Did you feel the hamstrings?
Yeah.
Or no? Okay.
Yeah.
Well done then. And now we want to do the same motion, but we don't want to use as much hamstring. See if we can do this just with the glutes. And you can. You've got this down really well. So now dead hamstrings. Relax those hamstrings. Bend the knees a little bit even. Okay. Now dead hamstrings, just glutes. Just work from here to right there. Yeah. Go ahead, just glutes. And when the hamstrings kick in, she's stopping. She knows this exercise. She's just using the glutes, and she's not getting a full range of motion, but she's focused in on just the glutes, and when she starts to feel the hamstring, she's cutting it out. Just glutes. And this is a good partial for that, what we just did. So well done, and thanks for bringing that up. The partials are good. I'm glad you remembered that and did it. That's good for this video. So this is a simple isolation exercise again, but if you can isolate the glutes and you learn how to flex them, you can do it on a leg press or a squat or anything else, on the field even, just jumping and running. Super good to learn how to do this and spend some time with those glutes. And then it develops them well too, and they look better. So it's all good in every way. Doing some of these is really well. And you can use weight as well later. You can hold a weight at your chest, you can put it behind your neck, you can even just hold it at arm's length. Lots of ways to overload this. Even bands are a good way. But the motion itself is what we're talking about, what we're demonstrating here, is just the pelvis rocking over and back, and over and back. And it all happens right here. Doesn't happen at the low back, doesn't happen at the hamstrings. It can, but we don't want it to. So, thanks for listening. I hope that you do some of these. It's really good for you. And it makes the world look better, because everybody looks better with more glutes. All right, thank you.
Can you get a picture of us together?
Yeah.